Chapter 62-98. As he said, he looked at Charlie and said very seriously, "Charlie, all the assets of the Wade family today will be your funds to fight against the Warriors' Den in the future. Just go ahead and do it. Even if the assets of the Wade family are exhausted one day. You don't need to be responsible to anyone. And you don't need to have any psychological burden." Charlie nodded lightly. Although he doesn't need to use any resources of the Wade family now. He can't help but be moved by the old man's words. Nicholas couldn't help but sigh. "Charlie, my attitude is the same as your grandfather's. All the resources of the family are at your disposal." At a family dinner, everyone toasted each other. And the two old people who had broken the barrier for many years became happier and happier. However, sometimes the topic would involuntarily talk about Charlie's parents. And the two old people would often have red eyes. Charlie was relieved. After all, it meant that there would be no more conflicts and gaps between the two families in the future. His parents had always had a very good relationship when they were alive. If the spirits in heaven saw that the two old people had put aside their past grudges, they would definitely be happy. After eating and drinking, Zhongquan chatted with Charlie's grandparents for a long time before getting up and saying goodbye with some apology. Charlie asked Orville to drive and first sent Zhongquan to Shangri-La. And then he returned home. Tomorrow's press conference is scheduled for the afternoon. In the morning, the two old people and Charlie's three uncles will meet with Pollard and his wife who have returned from their honeymoon, to sort out the process and content outline of the press conference to ensure that the press conference in the afternoon will be foolproof. At night, Charlie couldn't fall asleep for a long time. Hearing Claire's breathing rate beside him was slow and quiet. He knew that she had fallen asleep. He was still thinking about what his grandmother had said to him. Although he had never thought about having a child, his grandmother's words still planted a seed in his heart. The inheritance of bloodline has invisibly shouldered a huge and unshirkable responsibility on his shoulders. He has the responsibility to let the bloodline left by his parents continue to be passed on. People will always die. The difference is that some people die, and the bloodline that has been passed down from the Homo sapiens era is broken with them. But some people continue this bloodline. There are now 8 billion people alive in this world. And there are 8 billion hot bloodlines. Among them, there must be a part of the bloodline that can continue for thousands or tens of thousands of years. Or even until the last moment of human extinction. And there must be a part of the bloodline that will die when the second hand points to any grid. Perhaps the last second, perhaps this second, or perhaps the next second. Charlie couldn't guarantee how long his bloodline would last in the future. But he realized that he would have to hand over the baton at some stage to complete the inheritance of his bloodline to the next generation. Life is a relay race. When people in other tracks are passing the baton, the one who runs the whole course silently is destined to be lonely for life. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but laugh at himself. In the past 20 years, all he thought about was revenge for his parents. He never thought about what kind of life he should live. In the past years of marriage with Claire, he insisted on the inferiority of being a loser and the mutual respect between the two. Later, he continued with the guilt of concealing his identity and the unchanged respect between the two. This continuation is like a rocket launched into outer space. You don't have to worry about it. It will fly at a constant speed in space, without turning or slowing down. It is as stable as the electrocardiogram of a dead person without fluctuations. And Charlie was really a little scared at that moment. He was afraid that if he couldn't defeat Victoria and was killed by her, his parents' bloodline would be cut off. How should he face the spirits of his parents in heaven? With this thought, he could not help but turn around. Looking at Claire, who was sleeping beside him, he asked softly, "Wife, how about we start to think about having a child?" Charlie just whispered softly, never thinking that Claire could hear it. But Claire closed her eyes and said in a daze, "Husband, recently, these days I'm really so busy. How about waiting for 2 years to have a baby?" Charlie was startled by her voice. and after a closer look, he found that she should be talking in her sleep. Sometimes people can't distinguish between dreams and reality in dreams. If someone happens to dream about someone in a dream, and someone asks her a question in reality, she will directly bring it into the dream and then answer in a daze. Charlie also guessed that Claire should have himself in her dream at this moment. But he didn't know whether her answer was sincere or perfunctory. But he didn't really want to ask, so he looked at her gently and said softly, "It's okay, I still have a lot of things to do, you can think about it later." Claire seemed to have heard his words, giggled, and murmured coquettishly, "Thank you, husband, for your understanding, you're the best."